What's up guys, you're watching TUGGtv and today we're here to talk about rookie guitarist mistakes part 1.
The major mistakes what you do when you're buying your first guitar.
So, you decided to learn guitar. Good for you. What do you need next? A guitar.
Before we go any further, we'd just like to tell you that these are just guidelines what we're giving you guys for buying your first guitar. It's not necessary to follow these.
Essentially, these are mistakes we have also committed and we're talking about learning experiences that we've had and a couple of mistakes which are done in general. So without further ado, let's get into it. So to start things off, the first point we'd probably highlight is buying an ultra cheap guitar. Now, There is no shortage of guitars in the market. There are a lot of good guitars in the Indian market. The online market has also created a new place for people to buy guitars without necessarily having to go to stores. The used space again is an excellent market. So there's no shortage of guitars, which also means there are plenty of cheap makes of guitars. And this is where predominantly a lot of people spend their time and make their investments in. I think the basic logic is that, okay, let me learn guitar first.
Yeah,
so I'll buy a cheap one.
Buying the cheapest one is the best way to go just because you're a beginner. But
That's
then
true.
this does hamper your playability.
The problem you will face with buying a very cheap or an ultra cheap guitar is eventually it does not have the same playability as a good guitar does. So as you are learning, it is going to become a roadblock. It's going to hamper your playability, and the amount of time and money you are going to invest on either upgrading it or getting rid of all the chinks and the little problems, because there are a lot of them in it, is going to be pretty much equivalent to buying a good mid-range guitar. So keep that in mind.
So now this is a mistake which we see happening quite often in these guitar stores, Whenever we are over there, we find a bunch of people just walking in and buying a guitar just because it looks good. And like, dude, that looks cool, bro, just get that. No matter how flashy a guitar might be, it all comes down to the sound. Yes, I do agree the factor that, looks do play a major part in it. But then it's not necessary to go for something funky, something which is over the top and things like that, until and unless you just plan to, keep it hung on your wall somewhere and not use it anytime.
Keep in mind, a guitar is all about the tone wood. So the wood, the pickups, the hardware is what really matters, not so much the flair of it. So choose function over fashion, man. Next up, a point I would like to highlight is the Floyd Rose bridge.
Yes.
Now, first up, there is nothing wrong with the Floyd Rose bridge. So those of you who are planning to bash me up in the comment section, calm down. Floyd Rose is an excellent bridge system and it has a lot of versatility in it. However, if you are a rookie and this is your first guitar, keep in mind that stringing up a Floyd Rose, maintaining a Floyd Rose, retuning a Floyd Rose, all of this is a little more difficult when compared to a fixed bridge.
Yeah, and all of this is actually coming from an offender of the same mistake. As you can see the guitar behind us.
Yeah, so this essentially is a guitar that I bought with a Floyd Rose bridge. Now, of course, at the time when I wanted it, it did conceptually look good to me. I like the idea of a Floyd Rose. However, over a period of time, I realized that it is not my jam. I don't use it as much. And I change my tuning very often. I play different songs with different tunings. This became a problem. So if you are planning to invest in a Floyd Rose, be sure of what you're getting into. Probably do a little bit of research in it and then you're good to go.
Coming to another common guitar store mistake. We've seen quite a lot of people go into the store, play one for probably like half an hour, 40 minutes. They're very happy with it. They just keep it aside and be like, can I have a boxed piece of this one? The problem here becomes it's not like your consumer electronics wherein, the manufacturing process is the same. It all depends on the wood that has been used. What if the other guitar which you're picking up has got those minute changes what happens, because at the end of the day you are dealing with wood. What if the density is a bit different? These can affect the tone quite a bit when you think about it. So these are the things you should keep in mind. Small scratches here and there, few things which you feel are a bit blemished and not quite pleasant. It's okay, guys. Just pick it up. Playability matters.
Believe us when we say every guitar is unique. The next point we want to talk about are extreme shapes. So if you're like one of us and you're a big fan of metal music, you might probably be interested in going in for one of those flying V's or the fancy ones that are made by DC
Randy
Rich.
Rhodes.
The Randy Rhodes is another great example. This guitar behind us is also sort of a flying V. There is no problem with the extreme shapes. However, keep in mind that these shapes are predominantly made to be played in a certain fashion, generally standing up, which means you can't really put this on one side and play it. So be aware of all these things, and if you are investing in an extreme shape guitar, be sure that there are some guitar positions that are not going to be comfortable. So unless you are okay with it.
Another point which is kind of correlated to the first point wherein we discussed about really cheap guitars, it's the factor about the pickups of electric guitars being like, noisy single coils or humbuckers. The issue which comes about when using all of this is when you amp it up, it kind of gives you this horrible noise, the static sound. This discourages a lot of people from playing, and also the fact that you cannot hear what the guitar actually sounds like. Over a period of time, you get so used to the noise that, you kind of start feeling that is how a guitar should sound.
Correct.
So when you start playing much more cleaner things and everything, you don't know whether what you're playing is right, whether the guitar is out of tune, whether it's slightly off. We're not telling that you need the best, custom-made guitars or which have the Seymour Duncan pickups and all of these things, but then just a clean pair of humbuckers or single coils will do.
A dirty sounding guitar sounds bad, especially live. Another point we want to highlight is having an improperly set up guitar. Now, this pretty much doesn't need an explanation. The simplest thing I would say is if you're driving a car and the wheels are not aligned properly, you are going to have problems, not only short term, but in the long run. The same thing applies here. An improperly set up guitar, if you're using one of these over time, you get used to this. And what you are used to may not necessarily be a good thing, which means when you buy another guitar or when you get it set up properly, you will have to unlearn a lot of things. Basically, it's not the right way to go.
It's not just about learning the wrong methods of playing the guitar, but it's also the thing that if a guitar is improperly set up, it'll take you much more effort and it'll kind of make you lose interest when you're trying to play something and you're not able to play it.
And it just won't sound good.
Yeah.
So, rumor has it that when you're learning a guitar, you must start off on an acoustic. What do you say?
I say that's complete BS. With regard to this age-old debate, there's nothing wrong with starting your career with either of these. It's just a factor about knowing what kind of sound you're into and the playability that each of these instruments come with. It's easier to start off with an acoustic guitar and then moving to electric than the other way around. Because the electric guitar is made in such a way that the action is much more lower. The tone doesn't necessarily need to be kept in mind because you're anyway going through a processed signal channel. So it makes it easier. An acoustic guitar is a much more elaborate and time-consuming story, for lack of better words.
The next point we have to highlight, which is a signature rookie mistake: costlier is equal to better. So I say this because this has been a learning experience that I had. A lot of us go in for signature make guitars that are there in the market thinking that if you're paying more, you are going to get a good guitar. That's not necessarily the case. Yes, you will get a good guitar which is decently finished up compared to the ultra cheap guitar. However, you will end up spending a lot more for things that either you don't need or you're just paying a lot more for something which you didn't have to. A classic example again is this ESP Alexi 200 that I own. I paid a bomb for it. There's a video we've done on it. You can go through that as well. And compared to this, the mid-range market itself has evolved over the years. So you got a lot of mid-range guitars that offer more for less, which you can definitely consider. So expensive is not equal to better.
So before you guys kind of start going all over the comments telling, dude, the higher end guitars are better than your mid-range and everything, we know we're just talking on a beginner's point of view. So when you're starting off with your, guitaring career, it really does not matter too much about, how that half an inch or even that 2 mm makes a difference. So are you the kind of guy whose favorite band kind of uses 7 strings or 8 strings on their guitar? Still, it's a better option to start off with a 6-string guitar. This essentially just makes your life a bit more easier because starting off with the basics, kind of cementing that out, getting a good playability, getting your style right, makes it much more easier to shift over to the extended range than just starting with it.
Learn to drive a hatchback before you get into an SUV. So with that, we come to the end of the first part of Rookie Guitarist Mistakes.
Have any of you out there fallen prey to any of these beginner mistakes, or do you have any mistakes which you feel that we should have covered in this segment? Let us know in the comments down below.
Give this video a thumbs up if you like what you see, and be sure to hit that subscribe button along with the bell icon for more updates from us. This is TUGGtv signing off, and until next time,
Stay metal.